So here we go. This isn't the kit that I've ordered for y'all, but it's kind of an approximation um, and what some of you might be running into, trying to find uh, some materials that will work that maybe aren't exact. So it's all good. Um, so this is a set of 12 tubes, and then these are some variety of synthetic brushes that I was able to find there that were in stock. Let's see. I also have this folding palette I was able to pick up. And I was also able to get a pad of the block cold press watercolor paper. So those are kind of the essentials of the kit. Also a tube of gouache, which I had already, so I have that. I also have a pad of watercolor paper, and this isn't a block, so these are individual sheets. I'm going to be using this for some of the exercises and demos and stuff. Fabriano, this is a student grade paper, but it's I actually love this brand. So Fabriano, you want to send me some freebies? Go ahead. So that's all that we'll basically need to get started here. So let's do that and get started. Okay, so we're gonna get started. The first thing that we're gonna have to do is to get our paints into a palette. Now, I do have, this is a folding palette that has all these different wells, has some mixing spaces for it. If you've got the kit, you have a smaller version of this. I find that these come in handy, especially if you like to travel. You can even do your old, old-time arty kind of thing and hold it with your thumb through there. But the thing about these that I like is that you can leave your colors in here. You can mix in here, so you can kind of get a lot of different colors going. I'm going to show you the other thing I have. It's a Winsor Newton travel kit, just a little travel box set that I have had for years. I've refilled these pans a number of times. As you can see, I've used it quite a bit. I use this actually to do a lot of work. When I have gone on residencies, or if I've gone traveling or anything and I still want to make some work, this is just like such a handy little thing. It's a tiny little thing. It's really good. And then, I have other palettes that have different purposes for me. Here's my larger palette that I work from often. Looks like a mess, but to me, there's a lot of, I know where things are. Sometimes I mix a certain color and I need to go back to that, and I keep on dipping back into it. This is commercially available too. This is actually probably about 18 bucks at an art store. It's a really good set, or a good palette, and it has a lid. You can get that. You can also just buy a pad of palette paper. Palette paper will work for watercolors. The only problem with palette paper is that it lays on this flat surface and it's on this very loose piece of paper. It doesn't travel well. But if you're going to be kind of set up and stationary, this is really a good option. All the other thing that it doesn't have are like sides to it. So that's maybe, sometimes not the best thing. Sometimes that water will go off it. But I've used these for when I've worked large, or if I'm trying to mix a large amount of color without a lot of water. If I'm making something with a lot of water, I would get a little tray or a bowl or something. You can also use things like this, which is like an old Tupperware. This is an old palette that I've had, and it has like a sealable lid. So you can use things like this as well. Obviously don't eat anything out of this afterwards. If you're using acrylic or oil, you can use something like this as well. Those of you, I know this is a watercolor class, but those of you who are interested in acrylic or oil, if you have like a Tupperware with a sealable lid, sometimes that really helps if you're trying to make sure your colors don't dry out too fast. So let's get started by opening this up, and the first thing you're going to want to do is fill up some of your wells here, so that you can have colors. Now the reason why I went with tubes, and we had this conversation, the reason why I went with tubes is because it gives you a lot of flexibility. Like I said, I have this pan set, but what I've done is I've just refilled the pans with some tubes. And what happens is that, they stay a little runny for a little while, but then they dry and they're still perfectly good to use. They reactivate. That's one of the really great things about watercolors, that it'll reactivate. What we're going to do is lay out our palette then. Now, this already comes in a pretty nice prismatic kind of arrangement. How you lay out your colors will probably change depending on what you use more of when you start to discover what your palette, meaning like what colors you'll use. So for right now, just lay them out in a prismatic kind of arrangement. So going kind of following the rainbow. So we're going to go from yellow to a orange-red to a crimson to a more purple-sided blue to cerulean blue, so kind of a sky blue. This kit has a Prussian blue, which is a very deep blue. Just for the sake of keeping, same hue family together, I'm going to keep those together. It goes into a Viridian, which is a nice kind of a bluish green, but mixed with yellow, it'll activate and it'll get into those really nice kind of golden greens, those really sharp, bright greens. And then we start getting into our earth tones here. So we've got yellow ochre, we've got burnt sienna, we've got burnt umber, ivory black, and Chinese white. Chinese white is different than the gouache. Gouache is a very different medium than watercolor. It's an opaque watercolor. These are still transparent watercolors. Here, I'm going to just use this thing to zoom in a little bit because my webcam won't zoom. Let's see, does that help? Chinese white, there we go. Chinese white is still more opaque, and this is not something that you would use to tint colors. This is used for effects and also for dry brushing, for doing some more opaque kind of renderings and things like that. So we're still going to just be using these transparently. The Chinese white that may or may not be in your kit is a useful thing to have, but you can get by without it, especially if you have that gouache. Now, if you can't find the gouache, if that is not available, then we'll make do with this Chinese white. It's not the same thing. Does not have the kind of matte quality that the gouache does, and it doesn't cover in the same way. It's still a little bit semi-transparent. So, okay. So what we're going to do is lay these out, squeeze them out into our palettes. Now, I'm going to fill these up because I'm going to keep on using these. So I'm not going to use just a little bit, but I'm not going to fill up the whole thing. Just the kind of deeper part of the well. Okay. And then look at, you've got that much color. That's going to last you probably the whole semester. And then you've got all this left over. So these, you know, that's one reason why I also wanted to go with tubes. So much more flexibility. So you just squeeze out some of this. At this point, I will probably fast forward. Now, here we go. We're going to, you can see using some nice little dollops of color. Look at that. Look at that beautiful color. Look at that nice little rainbow there. That's all sweet there. These are also for just kind of mixing colors. You know, if you have, you know, more colors that you want to mix, then you can go with that. One thing you're going to want to kind of also kind of pay attention to is, like, while this is squeezed out in tubes, this is going to take a little while to dry. So you want to make sure that if you do have a folding palette like this, that you do not turn it upside down for the, you know, first day or two. It's right now it's really hot, so these will probably dry if I leave them out flat and let the air hit them. They'll probably dry overnight, maybe a day and a half. And there is a difference of feel and a difference of activation of the paint when things are completely dry and when things are freshly squeezed out. So that's something that you'll be wanting to pay attention to as well. Some of you will like it when it's squeezed out a little bit more, so maybe this isn't a tactic that you'll end up using, but this is a good way of having all your colors ready and available, especially if you got to pack things up. Having something that's kind of already set up is really great. Okay, so we're going to take a look at these brushes. What you're going to find, most of these brushes will come with, let me move that out of the way so it's less distracting, this little cap. So these little caps on here, they are to protect the brush in, you know, when it's in the art store and everybody's manhandling them and traveling and being shipped and stored and everything. Now, the other thing about brushes is that you're going to find that they come very stiff, right? It's like it's got glue in it. That's because it does have a sizing in it. Now what you'll want to do is that you're going to have to break that sizing a little bit. So you just want to rub your finger back and forth on it, and that'll soften it up a little bit. And then you can get it in some water. Get some of that excess water out, and you want to clear that out, you know, before you start painting with it. And what you should have set up is just a little paper towel, and then when you get your brush out, you can just dab it off and make sure you're getting the right ratio of water to pigment. Oh, and what I have here is yes, just a container of water, and I have a second container of water. Oh, I have a lid on it. Now I have two containers of water. One is going to be for cleaning my brush out, and one is going to be specifically for using to create paints, or create colors, to make tints, to apply washes, to bring water back into the paint, to do lifting, any of that type of stuff that I'm going to be doing with the watercolors. So usually my larger container, they can be the same size, it doesn't matter. And, you know, it could be a yogurt container. This is old takeout. This is a container that had really yummy Persian ice cream in it at one point. I'm going to keep that. It's a smaller one, so I'm going to use that one for my clean water, and I'm going to use the larger one for my dirty water. Okay. So with that, let's get started on our project.